I mentioned that they've won their last 6 Premier League games at St James's Park. They only conceded 1 goal during that time. They conceded twice, though, during the game against AC Milan in midweek. They're out of Europe altogether and fading in the Premier League as well. Well, that sort of seems to be the narrative, although, as I mentioned there, they have won 6 in a row at St James's Park in the Premier League. What did you think of their approach in midweek? Because they started brilliantly, I thought, got themselves in front, and they were in pole position to go through the Champions League knockout stages at one stage.
I mean, is it a team that's suffering? I mean, the energy that they create, and they in tandem, the unity with their fans, it's transformational since Eddie's been there. But are they just running out of steam? It seems to be almost the same 11 that they pick, except for Isak and Wilson, where they switch out.
And that's only recently, because he missed 7 games in a row, Wilson, with injury.
Yes, that's right. So it's almost like he's only got that 11 available. I know Longstaff now is getting fit again, but it's a very small squad. And we always knew, obviously, last season where they excelled with just 1 game a week. Now it seems the demands of Champions League football, being in a really difficult group, it's also really contrasting their home form against their away record. Their away form is really quite shocking, which is 1 win in 8. So that's when I think Eddie is now looking at it, saying, "Okay, we don't want the narrative to change. This is a successful story here. Let's keep winning and let's keep those noises quiet." So they have to. It's imperative they beat Fulham, who we know are really improving, aren't they, and getting much better. So that's not going to be an easy game for them. And then it's sometimes a bit like after the Lord Mayor show. When you play in the Champions League, the first year I played in it, it's the clamour for the media, the noise around it is probably bigger than international football. That's how it felt for me. I did both at that stage. So I think the players are coming to terms with all of that, and Eddie himself, but they got to refocus now to try and get those great nights back again. To go out of Europe completely was a bitter pill to swallow.
Do you think they should have approached it slightly different? Once it went back to 1-1 and they realised that would be enough to get them through to the Europa League, and it was unlikely, unless they got another goal, that they were going to get into the Champions League? Or was he right to try and chase that?
The game became really open and really stretched, and Milan needed to get what they needed for themselves. Yeah. And it was always going to happen, wasn't it?
I don't know. It didn't feel like that to me. No.
Well, I kind of felt they left the back door open.
Well, they did a little bit, but they were all what they wanted to do was try and go to the Champions League. You know, they almost did it. One goal would have sorted them out.
I understood that.
You would have been highly critical of him, I think.
No, I think they did the right.
If they hadn't have gone after that, knowing that Dortmund and Paris,
they needed to get that second goal, didn't they, on the night?
Yeah.
And then they could have changed tactically, could have got everybody.
Just
back
don't think
behind.
they created enough clear-cut chances in that second half.
No, but nonetheless, they've rubbed shoulders, and look at the group they've been in. It's a really difficult group.
Absolutely,
and they've been quite remarkable in some of those performances. But as I say, in the Premier League, I think what they need to do is transfer that home form to an away game. And we've not yet seen that this season.
Well, they've been robbed of so many players over the course of the season. It's been incredibly important to get those players back. And I wonder what will happen as far as the January transfer window is concerned. They haven't got too much money to spend.
No, loanees have been mentioned.
Yeah, but maybe they'll have to do a little bit of sort of movement in the loan market. We'll see how that goes. Let's hear from Eddie Howe. He's been speaking this morning at his press conference about the upcoming games.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big test of our ability to respond, our resilience. It's going to be a big test for us because I think there'll be a narrative that will be negative, and we have to override that. And that can become more negative if you don't respond in the right way. So we're trying to brief the players on what we need to do next. Brilliant group, as I've said many times. I think by the time the game kicks off, we'll be ready for it.
That's Eddie Howe speaking to the media ahead of the game against Fulham tomorrow. They deserve a mention as well, because after going through the first few weeks of the season where they scored just 10 goals in 12 games, they've scored 16 goals in their last 4 games. It's been an amazing turnaround.
10 in the last 2, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah. So they scored more goals at the last 2 than they did in the first 11.
And what I'm especially pleased, Jimenez, the way that he now seems to have conquered that, fractured skull, the way that he was. It was a shocking injury, and now he looks like he's back to his best. And Bulls let him go, and they may well regret that because he's been in outstanding form for them. Yeah, 4 goals in his last 5 games. Alex Iwobi, I think, is playing well as well. You must have watched him keenly when he was at Arsenal. Yeah, trying to find his best position. Does he play off the front? Does he play on the wing? Does he play central midfield? He played in all those positions, by the way, for Everton. And for Fulham, really, pretty much. Yeah, so I think a useful player. I thought maybe that was Everton might miss him, but it doesn't look that way. But nonetheless, he's gone to Fulham and done exceptionally well.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.